about this.
Yes.
So somebody used to hear me say those things, and he said, you know, now you come, you know, we will listen to you, and that's how I came in. This is the other hotel, I think, for Koreans around there, below Charles Mbire's home. It's called what? Arang. Is that Arang?
Arang.
Yeah, that's where.
Yes.
They said, you come, and then I had to drive from Namave, then I had to write a speech using my hands, and I tell them for the next, because the constitution, I think, was over 1 year. I said, well, how can anyone do anything in 1 year?
Yes.
I said, you must change this. And some people sheepishly have been accusing me for changing the constitution.
Yes.
Of the UPL. I cannot change the constitution. It's them.
Yes.
For me, really, I am there to stabilize. That's all.
Okay. And that is September 2015. You came in.
Yeah.
It's been a long journey since then and now. I think my first question should be, where did you find the Uganda Premier League then? And where do you think it is now?
First of all, I want to appreciate the previous board led by Omgurutsi, Haji, the former headmaster of Uchiburi. Abbas, yes, and his vice chairman, Sereve, for actually transiting properly at that point. So when we came in, the secretariat was suffering somewhere, I don't know, near a garage, somewhere. And I said, no, let's move to Nambole Stadium. Why? So you be relevant. See, you sit where there is relevance for football. And so we sat there, and there actually was, there was, you know, for me I said, let's build stability, first and foremost. Why? Because the previous, I don't know, there had been chaos, UPL, that time I think USL or something, fighting with
FSL.
No. They were fighting with FIFA.
Yes.
All the time, chaos. You know, this country thinks football people are mad, are crazy people. They have never gone to school. That's what this country thinks. So for me, I set in to redress that, to say that some of us can also go in and correct these mistakes and continue forward. And the country has been moving.
Yeah. Have you been happy with the progress so far?
Yes. The next year, we qualified for AFCON.
Yes.
Why? Stability. We qualified. The next year, we also qualified. And even then, we managed it using some of our connections. Actually, before that, you remember, I think we held UPL awards, and General Mhozi, Akaija, he came here. He came here and predicted. He predicted that Uganda would qualify for AFCON, and it did.
Yeah.
Because his reasoning was that I have now seen a good environment between the clubs and the federation. Because of that, he said we will qualify, and we will qualify.
Yes, and we qualified twice in a row, as a matter of fact. Let's come to the current situation then. Business in the world has been on a standstill, really, specifically football, because of the COVID-19. When it comes to some of the African countries where the clubs are not as rich, it's hit us even worse. You're the chairman board of the Uganda Premier League. You're close at all these clubs. How hard have they been hit?
The clubs are very, very hard hit. And actually recently, we appealed to FA. We told them, give us some money. Actually, they had some money that had come from FIFA. We thought it was ours. Then all of a sudden, it wasn't ours. But we kept engaging. Let me tell you, clubs which are not run by institutions, like for example, KCC cannot have a problem. URA, police, Naband. They can't have problems. But you think about people like Express, like Vira, my favorite team. Okay, this is a conflict of interest.
No, but you have to
but
be
I also
honest.
Mbarasite,
Yes,
by the way.
you're a football fan.
Mbarasite na yeki jakuno abanyankore banatira mpira hati. They are so hard hit. You can't imagine what they're going through. So I kept quietly. For me, I don't go to press. I hear people talking. in the press all the time. I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
For us, I don't go there. I kept calling my friend, Magogo. I would tell him, my friend, these people, let's think about something. And eventually, actually, by God's luck, FIFA has listened. It has listened to us and other clubs around the world that there's something that is needed. And the money is coming. It is coming, I think, in this month. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that is pretty much on the side. We're talking about money now, but before you came into management, there must have been priorities you had on the desk, specific things to change. And as, of course, I continue to speak to Mr. Rugyendo, the board chairman of the Uganda Premier League, feel free as well to send us any questions you have to him about Ugandan football and the league specifically using the hashtag NTV PRESSBOX, and he will be answering as many as he can. What do you think the main priorities in Ugandan football, specifically club football, should be? Because for a very long while, we've talked about professionalizing the league here in Uganda. We've talked about club licensing. We've talked about players making sure they get their contracts. We've talked about clubs paying players, structures at club. What do you think the priorities are for an average Ugandan club?
For example, I have a quarrel with my uncle, President Yoweri Museveni, saying that sports in leisure, really? This thing that employs over 1,000 people, it means he's not briefed properly. He needs to be briefed that this is an industry. And then we use our majority, the NRM majority in Parliament, to change the sports law.
Yes.
So that it recognizes the fact that sports is a talent generator. If people cannot get employed, but they can use, because you don't need to go to school. You need a leg just to score a goal.
Yes.
Yeah. We can liberate these people who are around here, making noise on the streets and fighting with the police. We can liberate them using sports. But there's nobody who's briefing him properly. I have that quarrel. And I think we shall win it. We shall win it.
I mean, you can't say it's part of the leisure economy. You look at how much money is in sport today and how much impact a simple Cranes or Villa game has the country.
Listen to me. You go to Europe. Europe, football, Arsenal, you look at their money. How come for them they make so much money? And here we can't. It is simple. Number one, we don't have a sports law which is clear, which listens to professionalism. Professionalism means money. Number three, infrastructure. You look at Kachek, the Banyankore are there just grazing cows in a sports stadium. Imagine, that's nonsense. Huh? And then you want people like MTN or DSTV, for this matter, to give you money. No. So we must, all of us, like some of us, like for me, I came from the stadium, the standards. I don't own any club. I've never owned one. Yeah. I just came there to tell them, to give them a small message that we need to organize. Once we are organized, once we are not fighting, once we are stable, then banks will come. They'll come to us. Because we have the audiences. How do we make money? How do we make money? You know, the association of advertising agencies, owned or actually run by one of my cousins, Stella Mpora, Stella Mpora Khan. Yeah? They think that media houses have the biggest audience. It's not true. The people who have audiences are in sports. My cousin, Brian Rugyendo, runs something called Tropical Royals in basketball. You know, and you know he's struggling, and people don't listen to that, and they don't understand that passion drives development. And sports actually bridges everybody. NRM, FDC, they come together, and they can only find a home in sports. Yes. That kind of audience, the advertising agencies have failed actually to put it together for the potential sponsor. Yeah. And I've told Magogo and his team at Mengo, I told them that we need to meet them and show them our audiences. Once we show them our audiences, we shall overthrow the media audiences.
But here's my problem. Here's my problem, Mr. Rugyendo. Like I said at the beginning of the interview, last week we talked to Mr. Senzo Mbatha, who is the CEO at one of the biggest clubs in the region, Simba. And he was talking about the professionalism and structures at these clubs. Now, you're talking about proving to guys at Mengo or different advertisers that there's a huge audience. But the clubs are not organized. Are the clubs organized at their level to make sure they have a product?
The problem we have in this country, compared to Tanzania, I've been in Tanzania and I've moved everywhere, including Munduli, Nkashikayo. That passion is like from the state. The state here needs to understand one thing, that if you come there, just mention one thing, like we want our clubs to be like this. Anywhere, we have 54, I think 59 federations in this country. But there's no one who talks about us. Nobody. They don't care. But in Tanzania, it is clear. It is clear because of socialism. Here we are a capitalist country. The other side, from Nyerere, it was clear that Ujama and the country, we are all one people, and it's clear. So this is very easy for anybody. Fall in line where passion is. Tanzanians are more passionate about their country than Ugandans. Why? Because here we are left.
Everyone does their own thing. Don't worry, our viewers from eastern and northern Uganda, we shall continue putting some subtitles. You might not understand some of the things Mr. Rugyendo is saying because he's dropping it some of his most comfortable lines in there. But I like what you're saying. And I drop in one issue because you've been in charge since 2015, for example.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
But until just last season, we had clubs not playing their matches because they didn't have playing grounds, for example. We had some time back drama where some players, some clubs had shirts that were not matching, you know, the shorts in terms of numbers. That is lack of money at all these clubs. Are you addressing these things? Because these things are tainting the game with...
I have two colleagues at the UPL, Ronnie Mtevi and Agure Ashaba. They are thought leaders in that cohort of the shareholders in UPL. Their view is this, and I support it, that we should lobby the government to build stadia. Every sub-county in this country has some pitch. Actually, the thieves have stolen much of that land. Those thieves, really, whom we are going to fight. They steal this land. But every sub-county, the original ones in this country, had a pitch. The state, it's the state duty, the duty of the state, to build those stadia. And then allow the Mtevis, Ronnie Mtevi, the one who runs, I think, Bright Stars, to make it their home.
And manage it.
And because he's helping you to send out, to keep these rowdy youth away from disturbing you. Why don't you listen to these people like Agure and Ronnie? Because eventually, once you have infrastructure, you can get corrections. Yes. You can even fund yourself, but you can also hire. The state must build this stadia.
So it's about political will.
Yes, it's political will in sports. That's what we have been pushing. Yeah. In fact, we even lobbying government to build, to start, not government, parliament, to start a caucus. They have Uganda caucus, they have NRM caucus, whatever. But they should start a sports caucus in parliament. Why? To lobby, to listen to the majority. We are the majority. And once we have it, then we shall have political will. I'm happy for President Museveni when he listened to us around 2016. giving us around 10 billion shillings to pay for the Uganda Cranes coach and all the players. They are not complaining. Yeah. That is government, and we're happy. Really, he listened to us, and I think, and about 6 other federations. But we want 54 of them, 59
of them, to be very comfortable.
Because if they don't, actually, for me, I was even proposing for a sports authority. Why? These investors who come here, who come here with their things here. The condition should be that before you invest here, part of your small money should go to a sports fund, so that we develop all the 59. If we don't develop them, these people will run on their factories. Yes. I can assure you, it will take just a few minutes from now. They run on their factories.
That's an interesting point. Look, we are taking as many comments from you guys at home. The hashtag is NTV PRESSBOX. I'm going to cross over to Joel Kamadi very shortly. But before I do that, let me now get joined in by Mr. Andrew Mwangusha, who is, of course, one of the panelists on the show. Andrew, good evening and a warm welcome to the show. We shall be getting Max Ali later on board as well. Mr. Rugyendo is here. I'm sure you're very excited to have him here. Do you have any specific question you'd want to throw his way so that we can start from there?
Good evening, Andrew. Good evening, the viewers, and good evening to you, Mr. Rugyendo. I'm excited, of course, because he sounds as excited as well. I just want to welcome him back to the show. And, you know, right now everyone is looking towards the leadership, both at the UPL and FUFA. Of course, me, I speak for the clubs, I speak for the players, I speak for the other actors that are not in boardrooms. So since we have someone from the boardroom, he could give us an update later on in the show about finally, you know, FIFA behaved towards the stakeholders, and FIFA released a statement on how the funds perhaps could be disbursed. So maybe an idea, an update from FIFA to UPL. The clubs would love to know from Mr. Rugyendo. How far with that? Yeah, then we can pick it up from that as we go on along the show.
Okay, I think that's a fantastic one. When Mr. Rugyendo is answering that as well, let me, ask him, first of all, in your view, what is your relationship between you and Engineer Moses Magogo? And the reason I ask this is not at a personal level, I mean at a structural level. Because we've had comments and complaints where everyone is saying the federation is disabling clubs. Clubs are not getting a mention, they're not getting a listen. I tried to get Honorable Mwine Mpaka on the show, but he's still been very, very busy. What is the relationship like, and how have you found FUFA's response to the problems of clubs? Has it been good?
First of all, FUFA has not been communicating very well with the clubs, and this was the major point in our last engagement. You know, the clubs wrote to Mama. When they wrote to Mama, I also reached there. I said, no, these things we can handle from our side, and I'm glad she listened, and we have handled. The relationship is between the board and the FA is very good. Why? Because previously, the thinking was, the ideology, the false ideology was that the board should always fight for, you know, fight. But until when? The world is not about to end. We must now go together and move on. Because FIFA does not even own this football. It's owned by FIFA. People don't understand these things. And that's why I like Engineer Magogo, because he taught me this. He told me in 2015 in Niger, he taught me that the game is owned by FIFA, not even by government here, no, FIFA. And the structures are very clear. And it's one game. You cannot have something else. How? If you have it, then FIFA will not, they can even shut out the country. People don't have that ideological consciousness about how this game should run. So for me, I told my team that let's pursue a peaceful engagement with FA as long as they are accountable. And they approved it. They are very accountable. They approved it. Individuals, in their own things, I don't have to say about it. For me, I engage with President Magogo on principle. Even when there were problems in Egypt, I had to speak to some people in the state because they were asking, you tell us the truth, and I had to do it. And I called him, what's happening there? I didn't go, but what is happening there? And that's why you see these Uganda Credence players still writing that letter to President Museveni direct, because they thought Magogo had stolen that money. Where? Museveni promised it, and it's going to come.
Yeah, we're going to come back to that, because I've heard you talk about, I don't want us to really be political on the show today, but we're going to talk about the government contribution to sport. Let me just, for the first time, really, I'm not a Cranes player, I mean, definitely, but allow me to pass on the message that I've seen on Twitter. It's been trending a couple of times. Different Uganda Cranes players have been tweeting, and hopefully our good friends in State House are watching the press box tonight. Yeah. The different Cranes players have been suggesting that the president, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, promised them $1 million after the Africa Cup of Nations. And that money has never come. So the players have been asking, with COVID here and how much they might be struggling themselves, can we have, the president get to pay that money to the players? The last time we had Mr. Magogo on the show, he made it very clear. He does not sign checks for State House or for the government. And since then, the players have been coming out strong, suggesting they were promised money and they haven't received it yet. So I'm sure someone somewhere is watching the press box tonight, and we are hoping that can be sorted. Let me quickly, though, cross over to Joel Kamadina, who is standing by online. You guys having questions for Mr. Renito Rugyendo. Joel, what's happening?
Very, very interesting deliberations going on social media, Andrew. But before I get to the reaction on social media, let me just show you what DSTV has in store for you this month. Because, of course, we are proudly powered by DSTV. There we go. Of course, that July 2nd Manchester-Liverpool match, that is done. Tuesday, which is tomorrow, we have AC Milan versus Juventus. And then on Friday, July 10th, we have the Champions League draw. Remember, it will be played on a one-leg basis. And then what do we have next? Yes, here we are. Sunday, July 12th, we have Tottenham versus Arsenal, the match in which we're asking you to predict and tell us who will win for a chance, and this is the correct score, for a chance to win a Compact Plus subscription for 1 month. July 18th, LA Galaxy versus LAFC. We have July 18th, FA Cup semi-final, Arsenal versus Manchester City. And then on Sunday, the other semi-final, Manchester United versus Chelsea. Then on July 19th, Sunday, we have La Liga on the final day, which takes place there. Of course, we'll have Real Madrid pushing for the title. All right, let's go to social media. What's happening? People are really, really tweeting. Timothy Taremwa says, I love the way you are mixing Rich Ruyankore in your response on the show tonight. You are the winner. Great insights. And Andrew Kabura, well done. We have another one. Josh Jaffa Watwaluma says, to Mr. Rugyendo, the UPL has been characterized by low turn-ups for match days pre-COVID, and now with these social distancing guidelines in place, what is the strategy, and what strategy do you have to ensure a safe return of fans to the stadium post-COVID? We have one more on Twitter. Yes, we do. Nathan Nasa says, what's preventing us from making a season fixture than half season? Don't you think that gives a loophole for match fixing? Because in case of CAF competition, we can reschedule fixtures. Andrew, let me just read you some that are also coming to me on my WhatsApp and on Facebook. I'll start with Facebook, where we have Clever Goldings, who says, thanks for the show, Andrew. Mr. Rugyendo should tell us why various stakeholders in the EPL are not consulted when they are deciding on cutting the number of clubs to compete in the top tier. Then on WhatsApp, Connie Lucy Businje, you say you have about 3 questions. The first one says, so what are the chances of Paida Black Angels returning to the UPL, and is funding available for them, especially in these COVID times? What's your advice to those who want to join the Uganda Premier League? And lastly, also, how does he plan to address concerns of medical insurance given to clubs by AAR, which allegedly limit treatment to malaria and typhoid? That's so much reaction coming in, Andrew. I don't know if you have a pen with you or how many you could grab.
of those down, and he will be answering them one by one as we get in more reaction. Like I said, later on, we shall still be catching up with Andrew Mwangusha and, of course, Max Sally, so they can give us their side of the story. But you know what, Joel? You just talked about something very important, and we were discussing it with Mr. Rugyendo before we came on the show. The relationship between football in this country and the press. It is very important. Today, the FUFA president, Engineer Moses Magogo, wrote a missive, I should say, to one of the top journalists in the country, Mr. James Bakama at A New Vision, suggesting that what they were writing was just not right. He thinks there's a couple of journalists out there who wake up every single day and just to tarnish FUFA's name. Someone was complaining about women's football, and Mr. Magogo came up with all the facts suggesting the federation has been supporting women's football. This happens all over the world, though. We've seen battles between federations and the press. The bickering in Ugandan football. Something must improve.
Thank you very much. I think for me, because I'm from the press has one duty. They used to call us the fourth estate, but there's now the fifth estate, which is social media. They have a duty to question anything on behalf of the public, on behalf of the fans in this case. But responsibly, you don't write without. If you choose me, just give me an opportunity to answer. That's what we learned in journalism school: balance, fairness, and objectivity. That's the problem I find with the sports press. And actually, when I became chairman, the first meeting we held was with the Uganda USPA. The other day, actually, I helped them get a guest some time back. I helped them get a guest, and he came really and gave them some support. These are the things we are doing. I said, you see, if you kill this game, if you become part of then you are cutting the branch where you are seated, because most of the sports journalists cannot move to other bits, like politics, like economics, like business, like news reporting, and anything. They are stuck there. Now, why are they killing something that feeds them?
Yeah, that has fed them for all these years.
For all these years. So for me, I have a challenge there, but we want to engage. The other day I was speaking to Clive. Clive, I said, let's have a time again and have a chat. Let's build this. If you don't build it, then there's a problem. Why? Because you not have something to write at home about.
Yeah. And nothing to feed off. Guys, I want us to, first of all, we have so much to talk about. We still have to talk about the big battle of 16 to 12, what you make of it yourself. We need to talk about those meetings that the clubs have had with the federation. I still do understand there's more going on, so you'll give us as many details as you can. I also want us to talk about...
a question which came from...
Yes, I want us to talk about those later on, because I want us to do a quick break now. But before we do the break, I probably should ask you something very small here. Someone did ask about consultations, because you said the relationship between the clubs and the federation is actually working out well. But someone is saying the clubs are not getting consulted. The federation is making decisions without the clubs. You head the clubs.
Thank you.
Do you feel you haven't been consulted by the federation? Do you think FUFA and Magogo have been unfair to the Uganda Premier League?
I think there has been that gap, a suspicious gap between the two institutions, and I am glad my board and I was very instrumental recently in diffusing those tensions, and we were there quietly. We went to their board at Mengo very quietly, and we diffused everything. And the clubs are happy as I speak right now. As long as both sides stick to what we agreed on. I saw some people misrepresenting us in the media. They actually think we are thieves. Actually, and that hurts me, because even running the board, I don't even earn a salary. No, I don't. And my board members don't earn a salary. We are serving football. We are serving the country. That's the most important thing. If all of us really focused on that, They would know these fights. We wouldn't have these fights, these things of clubs and the relationship. And I appreciate, I accept there was, the problem was communication. There are people at FA who drag the president down in terms of not effectively communicating. And the clubs are very right to voice out. By the time they reach the first lady, then there is a problem. When it means there is a problem. And FA accepted that cannot happen again. And I told them in my speech, I sent it, I think I sent it to you and some other people. I was very clear. I said, this cannot continue.
Okay, we're going to discuss that and more. Let's take a quick commercial break now. When we come back, we have a bigger discussion about Ugandan football, the future of the clubs here in Uganda, the clubs that will be performing at a continental level, and specifically the sponsorship. I mean, I want us to talk about the fans. I want us to talk about you guys who are watching the press box tonight. Let me ask you a simple question, guys.
Why do they like European League?
Yes.
Why don't they like their own country?
The local football.
They should go support Chet, support, you know. You go there.
Toro United, Mbarra City,
they're shouting Arsenal, Manchester. You know, they don't even know you. Why are they bothered about them?
Okay, we're going to discuss that and more. We shall also ask you guys why you actually don't go to the stadium to watch the local clubs. If I went into your wardrobe right now, do you have any local club jersey compared to the European club jerseys? Why don't we go back and support our clubs here in Uganda? Quick break. It's the press box. We're live from the Kampala Serena Hotel. Welcome back. It is the press box, and thank you very much for watching us tonight. Send us those reactions online. The hashtag is NTV PRESSBOX. Every Monday at 10 p.m. we are proudly powered by DSTV, and you know what DSTV is doing? They are giving a lucky viewer of the press box 1 month subscription, Compact Plus, meaning you can watch the Premier League, the FA Cup, and of course the Champions League alongside all the other sports when it comes down to cricket, to tennis, to rally as well. F1 returned over the weekend. We saw all the drama that happened in there. But of course, you can get yourself that DSTV bouquet now and enjoy all the action. Live sport is back here on the press box. Go to our Twitter and answer that very simple question. Then you could have a chance of getting yourself free subscription. All you have to do is give us the perfect score ahead of Sunday's big fixture, Spurs up against Arsenal. And if you get it right, the first one to get it right, you'll be getting yourself that subscription. Let me quickly cross over, though, to two different homes now. One is Andrew Mwangusha. Once again, the other one is Mr. Max Ali. Good evening, folks, and welcome back to the show. Mwangusha, I did ask you first. Allow me now to cross over to Max Ali. Mark, you are not joining us for the last show. You were out of town, but you've just been listening to Mr. Rugyendo now, speaking to us and giving us his thoughts on Ugandan football. When he talks about the bickering between the media and football authorities in the country, do you understand where he's coming from? Who is being reckless here?
Well, I am not going to be running the rule on people passing judgments, but from what you've been saying, Andrew, today is we're looking at how to improve the game and how to improve the league. One of the things, of course, that the powers that be, that is at the Federation and at UPL, have got to do is manage stakeholders better. Stakeholder engagement is quite crucial. We've talked about, I've talked about on the show before, inclusiveness, the bringing people on board and establishing buy-in about especially major decisions that the powers that be make that are going to be affecting the people who participate. But my views, Andrew, on improvement of the game in Uganda, improvement of the club game, the league, as well as the sport generally, go beyond that, go beyond just a small bit about stakeholder engagement. Because I think that is one of the things that have got to be improved, but I'm thinking that there's got to be a paradigm shift, a change in mentality for the entire nation about how we view sport. And I think, yeah, I didn't say, Rugyendo just hinted on it there when he talked about how the president of the country still believes in sport as leisure, and perhaps a few other people believe that it to be the sense, to be that way. There's an underestimation about the importance of sport in an economy, in a third world economy like ours, because we just do not understand. We have not been able as a nation to put into figures, to quantify what this multi-billion-dollar industry is about as far as boosting an economy is concerned, employment as well as revenue streams coming in. And of course, one of the things we've got to do going forward is to tie sport with tourism, because countries like ours, countries like Uganda, what we sell, what we have more, because we are not industrialized yet, not strong enough industrially to be manufacturing the kind of things that will shake up the world market, is to actually exploit our natural resources. And you might talk oil, you might talk minerals in the ground, and as well as a few other things, the nature that we have got to sell. But we also have human resource, and it's not better exemplified, the power of our human resource, than in sport, because we are naturally endowed as Ugandans. And so we've got to be thinking, if we're going to turn this into the multi-billion-dollar industry it's supposed to be, that our mentality has got to change about what sport can do for our economy. And that then we've got to understand how powerful we are with the natural resource, with this natural resource we have. And so the mentality is going to change from our policymakers, from the participants in the sport itself, and then from the general public. And then when we do that, then there's a few things that are going to be a little easier for us to do, the kind of things that bring money into sport. Merchandising, gate receipts, television, and general sponsorships and endorsements. Those kinds of things we can do if we change the mentality that we have towards sport right now. And ultimately, it's got to be important. When Rugyendo talked about something which I've been trying to push for in other places, and that is the bit about tying the investment opportunities that we give to the multinationals that come into this country into our sport. Because the contractors, where I work, for example, at the moment, is we've got a lot of international contractors that come in there, and they've got a lot of money, and also earn a lot of money from what we pay them to do these contracts on the roads, for example. So contractors like that, but as well as investors generally that come into this country, it should be a prerequisite for them to get that sponsorship, that investment license. They've got to show cause about how they're going to be, their CSR is going to be tied into Ugandan sport. And that will then go towards infrastructure, as well as developing capacity and a few other things. So as far as improving the sport is concerned, we are meant to be taking it to the level where we treat it as a huge commercial commodity that Uganda has, for which investment is needed for us to reap big. And personally, at the moment, I work with National Council of Sports, and one of the things I see that they are doing is they're pushing a few things, including a reward scheme for our sportsmen. So ultimately, one of the biggest ingredient that we have as far as our sport is concerned, as far as the league is concerned, is the footballers. But then we have also got a few other people that we've got to take care of better if we're going to improve this league. The referees, the guys who do the administration, and then our infrastructure generally, as well as our funds. But
Mark,
when you give me the opportunity, Andrew, I'd like to talk about one thing that I know that Irene Tue and Andrew Mwangusha and a few others might not address as expansively as I'd like to, and that is taking care of the footballer. The number one ingredient.
Yes, I'm going to come to that, Mark. I'm going to come to that very shortly.
When you give me the opportunity,
we shall talk about how to care for the footballers in Uganda's top flight. But let me quickly cross over to Mwangusha for now. Andrew, here is my problem, my friend. Here is my biggest problem about Ugandan football, is we've been talking about the same thing for a very long time. We've been talking about government will. We've been talking about professionalizing the league. We've been talking about giving more spotlight on sport. Nothing has changed. So I want you to give me your view on whether you think this is going to change now. But in the same question, really, answer what you make of Rugyendo's reign so far in the Uganda Premier League.
Well, let's start with Rugyendo's reign in the Uganda Premier League. Well, there are certain things that are straightforward. If you remember, after the chaos on the demise of the Uganda Super League, 2012, 2013, and all in between 2013 through 2015, there was a little bit of darkness in there. So, of course, they had to reorganize, a lot of machinations in between the old people and the new people. But finally, when they came through, at least there's been a sense of stability, which he hinted on. That's credit to him. And of course, the league and the sponsorship, yes, they managed to get back, the previous TV and this one. But of course, we all know that the previous TV that left as well was as a result of the wrangles here and there. But overall, in the last couple of years, you could say a little bit of there's a sense of stability that has happened. But as we came along, of course, there was that loss of communication between the board, the secretariat, the clubs, and FUFA. So I was glad at the last meeting that they held between the clubs, FUFA, and of course the UPL Secretariat and the board, where they admitted to actually the breakdown in communication being the root cause of all these, of the impasse that happened in the run-up to that final meeting. You remember the previous one, a few clubs did boycott. But of course, one of the things that that come up amongst leaders, which we actually need to address, is sometimes we wait for the very last to come out and say, hey, wait, here we were wrong here, let's improve. The UPL, the board, and FUFA all waited for that final meeting to actually admit that there was a breakdown in communication. But in the run-up to that, no one admitted. I mean, I spoke to a few couple of all the parties, and they all said, no, there's no problem. I mean, we follow the constitution. As far as the procedures are concerned, this is right. So there's no problem. They actually said there was no problem. Yeah, the problem was there and clear for all to see. But I'm glad that actually they did hint on it and admitted there was, a gap in communication. So we wait to see. And also, I'd like to hear from Rugyendo later, because that meeting that happened between FUFA and the clubs, they were supposed to get some feedback because they did actually give their own proposals towards the FUFA reforms. So we would love to know if they've got any feedback from FUFA or how far that has gone, because the season will be upcoming sometime in October. So in between, if there's been any progress between since the last meeting that happened. Then about the professionalism of the game, Andrew, Maxwell did highlight quite a number of good points. At the end of the day, I think it will need everyone's involvement. And when I say everyone, I don't mean just clubs, the media, FUFA, and sponsors. I mean families, I mean parents, because when you're talking of professionalizing the game, I mean, it starts from way young, whereby you teach the young, the culture, the sporting culture, so that they grow knowing what to do. And when we are talking of football, parents have got to be involved in the game as well. So if you're taking your kids to a few academies that we know here, the parent has to commit. The parents have to commit, be part and parcel of the kids' learning, combining, of course, sports and education, because that way they have a stake and they can ask questions. But for that to happen, the parents need to know that it's safe where their kids are going, that for example, if they go to catch a game after to catch a league game after their trainings and weekend soccer with the kids, they'll be safe at the stadium. They won't be stone pelting. So literally, the environment has got to be led by the leaders, but ultimately, all of us have got to be involved.
Okay, thank you very much, my brother. I want to cross over to Rugyendo, but before I do that, I think let me ask Mark the question he's wanted to answer for quite a while. What the Uganda Premier League, what FUFA, and maybe the Ugandan public, what is it you're saying we can do for the footballers in this country? I'm not sure if that is just about COVID or it's about the general environment and improving the game.
About the footballers, I've been, one of the things, of course, that has hurt me the most over the years, growing up as part of the Uganda football fraternity, is what happens to our footballers during their careers, but more importantly, even what happens to them after. And I am thinking that we've not done enough as a sports fraternity to ensure that the kind of footballer we produce and the kind of footballer that lives the game is one that is a great ambassador for the game, one that is going to sell this game even further. Because in all honesty, if these guys would be better ambassadors, marketers of this game than anybody else if we took care of them. And of course, the recent passing of one or two of our legends and the nature of their demise is one that not only brought tears to my eyes, but also got me thinking again about one of the things that we need to do. If you look at what's happening abroad in some of the other leagues that we follow, is they've got a strong professional footballers association, and that the strength of that professional footballers association comes from the power that it's the empowerment that it has got from the powers that be, from the guys that run the game professionally, both at federation level and at club level, down through to policymakers, like I said, all the way down to the fan. And Andrew, when I sit here, you and I and Andrew and Arenetwe, I'm thinking, if we empower the Professional Footballers Association enough, it would mean that for a show like ours, while I might have been a former league player, no, for a show like ours, when it has the orators, the great orators, like you, who is the host, Andrew, and like Andrew Mangusha, who's the great writer, then it should have the guy who actually scored 100 goals in the league and perhaps another 30 for the Ugandan Cranes before they retire. The empowerment that I'm talking about here is for us to ensure that these guys, when they walk out of the game, they sell it rather than actually dampen it to the point where the parents don't want to send their kids to the playing ground because they think there's no future there. So commentary, analysis, writing, coaching, refereeing, agency, football agency, and all these kinds of things for which we are supposed to prepare these guys to walk into. We are not doing a great job of it. And then also, these guys have got all other abilities that they don't know about and those that they know about, either because they went through school or because they picked them up in the society, or things that their natural bodies and environments have actually given them the opportunity to do. Are we training them enough? Are we allowing these guys to empowering them to become people with technical skills for which they can work? Are we empowering them to go into the professions that, because what happens is that if you're working in the civil service or in the private sector in Uganda, you will retire at 60 plus. But a footballer's career only lasts until about 35 at the peak of it. So they might be washed out footballers when they are leaving the pitch, but they're in the prime of their lives as resourceful people who can work. And we have not actually empowered them to do so. And I'd like to, I have a very great, a very expansive idea about what we're supposed to do with the Professional Footballers Association, because I think that while we are thinking about all other aspects of the game, there's a catalyst to the development of this game, which we are not working towards. And Andrew, I know I don't have that much time to elaborate on it, but I have. But when you give me the opportunity or subsequent shows, I want to break it down and show this country what we can do to empower this game using the number one ingredient, which is the player.
Okay, Mark, I mean, that's brilliant. We shall have subsequent shows where we can discuss that and more. But also, Mr. Rugyendo has heard you, so he's going to give you a call without a question to make sure you can sit over a cup of tea and share all these ideas. I'll be crossing over to you guys once again very shortly to talk about the European leagues. You wanted to make a comment on that because I want us to move on and wrap this.
Thank you. You know, Mark, one time
yes.
he drove me in his quick Corolla when I was at the monitor as a small reporter. He's a brilliant guy. I have learned a lot from him. Yeah. And I don't know, I wonder, why is Mark not at Mengo or somewhere within the system?
He's doing some work with Express at the
moment. That's very good. And we need people like Mark and others. And he said something about stakeholder engagement. I agree. I agree that we've not engaged a lot. But you know, when you're disorganized, nobody can listen to you. No. But when you organize it, people will listen to football in this country. And I agree with him with everything that he said. But there was something that touched me that he mentioned just a few minutes back, which is about the the players, the ones, the careers, when they are done and then nothing happens to them, they die like destitutes, having really, you know, like for example, it would be very wrong, shaming actually, if a man like Kiprotich, you know, dies a destitute, having really defended this country at the international stage. I remember I worked with Mark a bit on somebody called Mr. Kampara. Then, you know, we went to State House. We tried, you know, they gave him some little money. I drove him to the airport when he was going to represent Uganda, and he went alone. He didn't have any money. Then he represented the country, and I think he won white bronze or something. Then eventually, the Germans took him. Now he's the other side.
Yes.
We lost.
I think that's Ivan Biekwas.
Ivan Biekwas, yes. And then Daira, the late Daira, at least there, they helped us. At least the state buried him. And we had to push very hard about it. But why should we do that? Why should we disturb Museveni about these things? The most important thing is, let's have, including you, the country, people, stop your things of FDC, NRM, what. Because a talent is a talent. A talent does not know DP, doesn't know people power, doesn't know NRM, doesn't know anything. It's just football. Yeah. And we should get there. Yeah. And move forward. Yeah.
We're going to go for a break. By the way, just to be clear, we've never had this much politics on the press box. So we're also happy that you've come.
I am a political footballer.
We are very happy that you've come to the show tonight. I want us to take a quick break. When we come back, we join Joel Kamadi to get more of your reaction online. But also, Mr. Rugyendo will be telling us about this 16 and 12. The clubs he leads, why are they suggesting the clubs shouldn't be reduced from 16 to 12? Yet, some of the folks are saying, we need a quality league. We need all teams in the league to be good financially, powerful, managing their affairs very well, a little bit more professional. And some clubs are saying, we've got to stick at the 16 plus. We shall try and wrap that up by him telling us about how we can bring fans to the stadiums to watch Ugandan football. As a matter of fact, the press box tonight starts a drive. Everyone who is watching us tonight, please, quickly head over to Twitter or Facebook, #NTV PRESSBOX, and tell us which local club you support when we get back.
Surprise!
Fetukadiwa. Ne Global Paint tesiwuka.
Global Paints, a reliable product.
Is this plane going to Luanda?
Yes.
Can you please give me a ride?
It depends.
Kiluanji, the illustrious Mr. Gonzalez was not invited to the party.
Rosa.
I know you forgot, but I couldn't let it go without telling you.
I think a million kwanza should do it.
A million? A million kwanza? What on earth do you need a million kwanzas for?
Aha! Now that I have your full attention, can you tell me what's going on? Since your partner Philippe went away, you've been very absent-minded.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Press Box. Such a pleasure always having your audience every Monday at 10 p.m. We're proudly powered by DSTV and, of course, the Kampala Serena Hotel. Before I went to the break, I said you should quickly head down to our social media and #NTV PRESSBOX and tell us which local club you actually support. I don't know what supporting really means. I think it should be involving you giving some money to the club, either going to watch these games and paying at the gate or buying some of their merchandise. I don't know. I think you need to do something for Ugandan clubs so we can know that you're there and you should be counted. And if you don't do that, then you shouldn't have a comment when things go wrong in Ugandan football, because you're certainly not one of those that is supporting Ugandan football. So 3 final questions for Mr. Rugyendo, who is at the chairman board at the Uganda Premier League. 16 to 12. That has been the big moment of friction between the federation and the clubs. The clubs are saying you did not consult. You don't come up and say suggestions and this should change. Why would clubs have a problem reducing from 16 to 12 when it means a quality league?
First of all, people should understand that the game of football is owned by FIFA and by extension CAF and then FIFA. They're the ones who decide. But what's happening right now is that these are proposals and consultations are going on. Clubs have been asked actually or requested to give their views. The other day actually, Comrade Agra Shaba, he presented something around it, which I think FA has taken in. But the most important thing is that the issue is about competitiveness, a qualitative
league.
Yes, and then when you have 12, I think there is some bit of fight, real qualitative fighting, competition to be able to really give quality. But for me, the problem I have with it, me personally, which I haven't given, but let me say it here, because of the structural problems that we have in this country, you know, the best clubs in the world are community clubs. So this might give, in my view, this is my view, it might give advantage to people like you know, those who have money, institutions that have money. So you find the leagues around Kampala because there is police here side, there is the military, UPDF here side, then there is KCC, then Simanyondi, you know, URA, and for me that might advantage those people. Yeah. While of course the strategic objective is to have a quality league
across the country.
Across the country. For me, I think let's discuss. Let's keep the discussion ongoing. But also the state should only fix one thing, especially for the community clubs. One thing, infrastructure. Yeah. Nothing else.
Give them a stadium.
And give them a stadium. And for me, I agree with Mark. On our side, we and the fans should package the game, the audience, to people, to stakeholders, to give us the money, especially towards the community clubs. And even not only those, but also you Ugandans. Let me tell you actually, you Ugandans, stop. Why do you support this Abajung? Why don't you support us just by paying that's 5K at Nambole Stadium at Rugogo. Why? And then when they don't do that, then they're on social media. Baba, you like as if the ones who can run football, yes. But they don't even pay. Why don't you come pay your money, then demand accountability?
When does the league restart? When does the league restart?
We think we are following FIFA guidelines in consonance with the World Health Organization and also the President of Uganda here and the Minister of Health. We think maybe we might be released around October. Okay. But what we have done, we are moving. We are moving with the calendar. For example, club licensing, I think, is or has started or something to ensure everything by the time we are released by COVID. We are ready.
Yeah. I want to come to you for a final comment, but before I cross over to Joel Kamadi for a quick sample of some of those social media reactions, someone asked a very important question. Why is it that the Uganda Premier League always releases half the fixtures, and then when the first half is done, we redo them again? Isn't that reason for match fixing?
No, it's because of the international calendar. You are there, you have your calendar, then CAF says, we want this game here, then FIFA, we want this game here. You know, they're the ones who disrupt us, actually. Yeah. Because we follow. I told you, this thing actually is a dictatorship. This FIFA thing is a typical. I hear people say, "I'm a dictator." No, dictatorship is in football, right from Zurich. Yes, that's where the dictatorship is. Yes, and they will say, "No, now we want this, then we want this, then we want that." Even if you have your calendar, they will disrupt it. So they should not blame us. What we need to do, as long as we have like more electricity, for example, in this country. If we have more electricity like nuclear energy, we can start doing like night games.
Yeah.
We
tried it at some point, but it couldn't go to all stadia. Like
because you look at our stadium.
Yeah. How can Kacheka have be floodlit?
No, there is no meant amash.
Let me quickly cross over Joel Kamadi. What is happening online, my friend?
I'll tell you what, Andrew, before you let Rugyendo leave, there's so many questions and so much reaction both on Twitter and on Facebook, and you can choose. You might choose which ones to direct to him, maybe 3 or 4, but I'll just start with a few, about 6 of them. Harold Atukwatse asks, can't speak of a professional footballers association when the league is only professional in words, but worse than amateur in reality. I agree with the spirit of your suggestions though, Mark Sally of course. The day-to-day plight of a Ugandan footballer is appalling. We have another one from Galas Jonathan who says, we love the club so much, but at what level are they taking this? A club can change home game locations almost all season. How do you expect a fan to cope with that so fast? The professionalism can't be matched, more so if we compare it to other European leagues. We have another one from Toka who says, I would like to know from Rugyendo which plans they have as a committee to help local football clubs with academy systems as a way of improving the sport and the league. And strategist Alan says, most teams don't have specific stadiums. Look at a team like Chetume from Mukono, went and started hosting its games from Jinja. So as a fan, how do you expect me to cope with those abrupt changes? Maybe 2 more. Harold Atkwatis again says, I believe the president is right when he refers to Uganda's sport, that is football, basketball, rugby, as merely a leisure activity. That's what we have portrayed it as. We run everything so casually it hurts. Do we have a final one? Yes, we do. Our friend Ivan Kakembo says, with all due respect to our chairman UPL board, Rugyendo, is talking about FUFA business instead of what UPL board has done for club in terms of generating revenues from club commercial properties, delivering an attractive league, etc. That's what they say. That's what they ask. So you might as well just pick 3 or 4 because I know we are running out of time. Then he can answer those questions.
I mean, that's quite interesting in terms of the reactions we're having online. Mr. Rugyendo, you just heard what they said. Some people are suggesting we should be talking about attracting funds, attracting sponsorship, professionalizing the league. You've talked about community clubs. You've talked about sponsors, the corporate world. But how can we have all this mix worked out? Isn't it the structure at the clubs? Are we really putting enough attention to the clubs and the structure they run with throughout the season? And we're trying to wrap this now.
Actually, it comes to back to amateur. The sports in Uganda is like amateur because of the sports law. That has changed. If it changes, then we need people like those who are commenting just to come in, be like me. I'm not paid for being here in the board. No, you come in because we love the game and we want our country to progress. Come in. If you, for example, you are a football fan and you are head of a procurement office somewhere in URA or anywhere, why don't, or in a bank, why don't you? And you're a fan of, say, Express, why don't you sign that contract? Why don't you help us, help the clubs? Because one of the things is, few clubs are not community clubs, so most of them are run by business people. Somebody wakes up, has some money, and then he says, I want to start a football club. And I love that initiative, which the country, the state should listen to these kinds of people. They think investors are the other people who manufacture. But for us, we manufacture talent. And talent will go, will be, these phones that you think that you're manufacturing, they will go away. But talent cannot go away. And for me, the attention should be there. If people have really moved on their own to initiate, to start something, to engage these youth instead of being on the streets, support them. Yeah. And if you are, they are talking about funds, but you see, you have to be there. Why are you watching Arsenal? Why? Because even those people don't even know you. It takes something. So for me, I think that what we need to do is to ensure that we have good infrastructure. Infrastructure is the problem. People think infrastructure is only roads. railways, factories. But infrastructure is also about football stadia. If we have football stadia everywhere, you cannot have these people on the street.
Yeah. Josephine, let's have your final comment to the Ugandan football fans out there. The players are watching, the club chairmen are watching, FUFA is watching, and I'm very sure the TV is also on in State House. You've said a little bit, so many things that have really come down to how we can manage the game. Your final comment as we wrap this one up.
I want to appeal to Ugandans, from President Museveni to every soldier, because I actually salute all the armed forces. I wish the country really would recognize them, like I'm doing right now. But importantly, all fans, all Ugandans, stop watching European football. Why are you wasting your time there? You go to Chetme. Support that little person in Machiso. Your local club. Stop thieves who are stealing land at the sub-county headquarters. They're stealing it. The land which is supposed to host these youth. And then people are wondering why youth are on the streets complaining. Because what's Bazenkai? And you see these things and you get to wonder. Yeah. And for me, and second, and finally, actually, for me and my board, we think, and we are talking with FUFA and some people at Labour, at the Labour Ministry, we think because we are so many in sports, we can do a sports circle. I want to appeal to all sportsmen in this country that this proposal is going to come. It's not only for football. Once it comes, and I want to ask my uncle, President Museveni, kuturijana na nkana ineji proposal otera makasenta munshawo yitu.
Okay. Thank you very much. That is Mr. Rugyendo, the chairman board at the Uganda Premier League, giving us his thoughts. You can quickly keep sending in all that reaction and tell us what exactly has been happening and who you think needs to step in to improve the Uganda Premier League. Let me now quickly cross over back to Mark Sally and Andrew Mwangusha. Let me just throw you guys one question. Others talk about the European leagues, which Rugyendo says we shouldn't be talking about. And I can ask you about what happened over the weekend. But Mark, let me start with you. Tony Maweje is back in Ugandan football. Second stint at Police. Whoever is at Police must be super excited. But also a midfield gem is back in Uganda's top tier. How excited are you?
Hello, Tony Maweje is back in Ugandan football?
Yes, he's back with Police.
Of course, hello?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, of course, one of the things I commend Tony Maweje about is the discipline that has ensured that he has had such a long career. He's one of the examples to young Ugandan footballers about how far discipline can take you. There's a long list of Ugandan footballers who have played for a decade plus, which is a very difficult thing to do, only because they've been disciplined. Maweje has walked in the footsteps of people like Ibrahim Sekaja or Timothy Batabaire or Nyango now, and Poste Tomoni, the guys who played in South Africa and played for a long time. And I believe that it's the same kind of career people like Farouk Mia are going to have. What they have in common, players like that, if you look into their backgrounds, if you look into their lifestyles, if you look into their careers, is that they've got a great sense of discipline. They've got passion for the game, but also a great sense of discipline that ensures that then they have long careers. It's, well, I am hoping that like many people who like to come back home and finish their careers, and we've seen that with international footballers elsewhere on the globe, that it's not been a desperate move for somebody who's who's got nowhere else to go, but one who has decided to come back home and see out his days before he becomes perhaps takes on the next bit of his football journey. Okay. Well, I'm surprised to be honest, but I'm happy as well, and I can't wait to see him.
Okay.
Andrew had thought that you were going to give me some last thoughts with Arinitri before he left. I don't know if he has left the studio already. There's one other thing that I wanted to implore.
Me too, Mark.
Yeah, so I'll wait and see if Andrew will give me an opportunity to do that. There's just one.
You know what, guys? Here is my problem. We have about 10 minutes to wrap up the show, and I wanted us to have a quick feel of European football. So I don't know, should I give you guys each exactly 1 minute? Will you take 1 minute? Let me start with you, Mark. 1 minute. 1 minute, Mark, I repeat.
Did you say 1 minute?
Yes.
Andrew.
1 minute, Mark.
Is that fine? Yeah. Andrew, as you see, right now I'm on Zoom, and I'm managing to do the show with you. This morning, the National Council of Sports, the National Council of Sports engaged the sports federations in the country on an online meeting like this, which also involved the sports minister, Honorable Hamis Onobua. And they've achieved a lot in, talking about funding guidelines, talking about reward scheme and everything. The amount of work they've been able to do at the National Council of Sports during COVID times because of technology is just reminded me again about something that I wanted to tell Rugyendo. When I was away from the show here last weekend, last week I was in oil country in Hoima, where I was doing some great work, and we're going to take a look at that. If I'd wanted to catch a Premiership game, all I'd have needed to do was pick up my phone and go into my DSTV app. There I would be catching the Premiership. Thankfully, my hotel room had a TV with it, so I didn't need to go into my phone and my app. But I would have done that. What I'm saying here is that I'm thinking that the UPL, one of the things they're going to have to do post-COVID is to embrace technology a lot more, so we can have they bring the game to the people in more ways. The guys want to bet. The guys, a fantasy league, do we have one? The guys, a lot of things that we can do with technology that we need to do to bring into our game. Because while Andrew Mangusha was talking about a meeting, say, the federation had with club presidents, it is different from what NCS had with federation presidents this morning, because they did it in person. Technology is the next step.
Mark.
Bring it into the game, yeah.
I appreciate that. I think we're running out of time. Let me quickly cross over to Mwangusha. Meanwhile, Mark, let me just remind you that the lights in your background are on and off. To the viewer, it looks like a disco is going on. Just to remind you, police has banned house parties. So I'm hoping there is no party at your house because your lights are on and off. But Mwangusha, you needed a minute to wrap this up.
Party here.
Andrew.
I can hear you, Mwangusha. Please go on.
Amazing how Mark actually fits 1 8 minutes in one. Mine is a combination of a statement and a question. I hope Rugyendo is still in the studio. Rugyendo's submissions tonight were quite well. Were quite good for, he really told a story well of the Ugandan football. But I think of all stakeholders, government, FUFA and UPL, FUFA and President Museveni will feel more represented on tonight's show than the clubs, because clubs would have expected Rugyendo perhaps to front their proposals that were presented to FUFA in the last meeting, the proposals that actually offer what the UPL clubs think FUFA reforms should be. So perhaps that's a strategy that the clubs would have loved, presented on the show, and feel their voice heard. But I thought he was too general. But at the end of the day, yeah, he did represent football. But I thought the clubs would have wanted more in terms of their strategy and what they feel FUFA reforms should be.
Okay, I appreciate that, Mwangusha. I think I'll give Mr. Rugyendo a minute or two to wrap that one up, the specific proposals, because, I let it go because you said the discussions are still going on between the federation and the club, so I didn't want to preempt what could be top secrets in there. But do you want to give us some light on the proposals of clubs to the federation?
Yeah, the clubs are very clear on one issue, the proposal of 16 clubs, and funding and more support and more engagement, and when we were there, we were able to resolve all of that. And other issues are being discussed internally, which I don't want really to mention here. And because this association football, it's like which is trading in a public good a little bit, but the other issues are so internal. I shouldn't mention them here, but I should have, but I think that's not why I came here. I came here only to show what's our strategic direction, where are we going, and where we shall be.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Let me quickly cross over Joel Kamadi as we wrap up the show now. Joel, you should take us through what has been happening in the English Premier League over the weekend. I know a win for Liverpool in there. We had a loss for Man City against Southampton. We had Man United, 5-star Man United, Bruno Fernandes and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer on fire. Chelsea winning their game as well. I think, Joel, you should quickly take us through those results and remind us about that subscription as we wrap the show tonight. Joel.
All right, many thanks, Andrew. So what happened over the weekend? By the way, very interesting deliberations between you and the UPL board chairman, NTV Rugyendo. Many thanks for coming, Mr. Rugyendo. As we wrap up, Premier League matches that happened this match week that just ended. That was from Saturday, July 4th, match week 33 actually. We had Norwich and Brighton. Of course, Norwich are losing that one and getting closer and closer to relegation. We have Leicester, Crystal Palace, where Leicester won 3-0. Manchester United continuing the fine form, 5-2 winners against Bournemouth. Wolves, 2-0. Losers against the mighty Arsenal, and Chelsea, of course, keeping up with that top 4 place, 3-0 winners at Watford at home, of course. Then on Sunday, we had a draw between Burnley and Sheffield United, Newcastle 2-2 versus West Ham United, Liverpool winning 2-0 against Aston Villa, and Southampton 1-0 against Manchester City, a surprise result that was. Right now, currently, what is happening, it's 1-0, 63rd minute, that's Tottenham Hotspurs versus Everton. There was a 24th minute own goal by Michael Keane. Can Spurs hold on? We don't know that, but we'll watch and wait. Of course, all this is courtesy of DSTV Uganda, and we told you earlier on the show that we have a package for one lucky winner who can predict the correct score on Sunday, the match between Arsenal and Spurs. Spurs will be at home, so if you can get that prediction right, correct score, that is, and using the hashtag NTV PRESSBOX, DSTV PRESSBOX, that's the hashtag, DSTV PRESSBOX, you will get yourself 1 month of subscription. Do that on Sunday. Think of what the correct score might be, and you might be a lucky winner with 1 month of Compact Plus subscription. Andrew.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Joel. We wrap the show tonight just exactly by reminding you about that. Next week, we haven't had that much time on the show tonight for a lot of European football because we are focusing at home where charity does start. But next week, we shall be talking more about the transfer speculation. It's just around the corner. The seasons are getting done. Chelsea has been very busy. Jadon Sancho lynched Manchester United. Arsenal, Man City have all been trying to get a couple of players in before the season finally comes to a close. So we shall discuss the transfer speculation. We shall also have more fans joining us on the show next week to discuss the happenings in the Premier League, who finishes in the top 4, who gets relegated, how they think squads have been improved, and what they expect from next season. And also, we shall be giving away that 1 month free subscription, Compact Plus, to one lucky viewer. All you have to do is give us the perfect score ahead of Sunday's game, Arsenal and against Spurs. If you can get the perfect score, and you're the first one, and you use the hashtag DSTV PRESSBOX, then you will be getting yourself that subscription. Mr. Rugyendo, thank you very much. Thank you very much to Andrew Mwangusha and, of course, Max Sally, who have been watching in and joining us from home as well. Thank you very much to the production team that always make sure we are up, running, and live every other Monday at 10 p.m. exclusive to NTV. I'm Andrew Kabura. We're live from the Kampala Serena Hotel, proudly powered by DSTV, saying good night and stay safe.